Good morning, class. In the last video, uh, I discussed the original Mahabharata myth regarding Arjun's marriage to his third wife, third wife, Chitrangada, and as we know, Tagore's dance drama in a single act, that is a one act play, Chitra, is based upon that Mahabharata story. Today, let us talk about Tagore's one act play, Chitra, that is based upon one of the Mahabharata myth. So, this Tagore's play consists of 9 scenes that enfold the drama of Chitra's life. That is, her falling in love with Arjun and how she achieves his love in return. As there are limitations on the number of characters in a one act play, this play consists of only 4 important characters, that is, Chitra, Arjun, and 2 gods, that is Madan and god Vasant. And there are some minor characters in the form of villagers. As far as the structure of the plot is concerned, the first part of this play is exposition, that is introduction, during which the dramatist introduces the characters, describes the setting, and establishes the problem, issue, or crisis in the story. In case of Chitra, the first scene serves this part, this role, by introducing the 3 main characters directly on the stage, whereas Arjun's character is described and incidents, developments related to him are reported. So these are the dramatic devices. Something is directly performed, shown, happening on the stage, and something is reported. The dramatic devices used in this scene are flashback and deus machina. Flashback is reporting the past events through the memories of the characters. And Deus Machina is solving the problem or crisis with the help of some god, some divine power, savior, or some great supernatural power. As this one act play opens, in the very first scene, Chitra comes across the supernatural powers in the form of god Madan and god Vasant. She introduces herself as the daughter of the king of Manipur, whose ancestors had received a boon in the form of an unbroken line of male descendants. However, she had been born to the present king Chitravahan, in spite of the grace of Lord Shiva upon the king's ancestry. Chitra declares herself to be an invincible, strong, powerful woman who is born in spite of God Shiva's blessings, and this is where we come across the genius, the touch of a genius, a great writer like Rabindranath Tagore. As I told you in the last video, the writers, particularly the Indian writers who take inspiration from Ramayana, Mahabharata, or some Puranas or legends or myths from our ancient oral literature, still they use those myths and those stories having current relevance related to some issue, and here it is a woman's place in this world. Here we can say that we can study this poem, this drama, this one next play, from an essentially woman's point of view, from a feminist perspective. So here, in spite of the boon, in spite of the blessings of Lord Shiva, a daughter is born. And what she says, nevertheless, I quote, the divine word proved powerless to change the spark of life in my mother's womb. So invincible was my nature, woman though I be. Unquote. So this is the this line appears in the first scene. So this shows the strong nature, strong character of the woman Chitra, who wanted to be born, who wanted to come to this world in spite of Lord Shiva's boon. Tagore presents the protagonist of this one act play. Protagonist, now here it is the heroine, that is Chitra. And she is presented as a strong woman, having a strong will to be born, to live, though her ancestors worshipped hard for male hair. Yet her father, King Chitravahan, has brought her up as a son, a boy, by teaching her to use weapons as well as duties of a king. However, one day she comes accidentally across the great archer and a very handsome man, Arjun, in her male dress, disguised as a boy. But he neglects her, thinking of her boyish face. But this meeting brings a sudden change in Chitra, even though she had been brought up as a son, a boy, by her father. She feels for the first time in her life that she is a woman, as she says, I quote, then for the first time in my life, I felt myself a woman and knew that a man was before me. Unquote. Through this accidental meeting, the dramatist, as if tries to bring out Chitra's womanhood, her feminine qualities, deeply affected by the manhood, masculinity, male influence, or power which is projected through or represented by the brave warrior, handsome Arjun. Another important aspect of this transformation is that all her masculine patriarchal upbringing is gone, fades away, disappears as soon as she sees the handsome, manly Arjun. In fact, now this is the feminine nature. Dramatist here projects the protagonist Chitra with all her feminine qualities. In fact, she just forgets her earlier wish to have a fight competition. Combat with the great archer Arjun. Very soon, Arjun disappears into the forest before Chitra is able to say anything. However, this chance meeting with Arjun brings a transformation, total change within her. She throws away the man's clothes and changes into women's clothing, also wearing many ornaments, and goes to the forest temple of Shiva, Lord Shiva. Going there, she might have asked for Arjun's love, but but he avoids her by telling her about his vows of celibacy, that is his oath of remaining celibate, that is without having physical relationship with a woman. This makes Chitra humiliated, insulted, angry, and frustrated. Now she is rejected by Arjun. She realizes the uselessness of her manly power given to her by her upbringing, like a son, a boy, a male heir. She then requests Madan to give her a woman's power to spread or cast her spell of beauty over Arjun. The god of love, Madan, also agrees to help her when she asks, I quote, "Now teach me thy lessons, give me the power of the weak and the weapon of the unharmed hand." Unquote. In this way, Chitra is so desperate for Arjun that she is ready to do anything to get his love. The dramatist makes her declare or express her desire very frankly, as she declares by the end of the first scene. I quote, "I am not the woman who nourishes her despair in lonely silence, feeding it with nightly tears and covering it with the daily patient smile, a widow from her birth. The flower of my desire shall never drop into the dust before it has ripened to fruit, but it is the labor of a lifetime to make one's true self known and honored." Unquote. This is Tagore's treatment of the mythical woman, who is always mute, that is silent, regarding her own desires and needs. The dramatist presents the princess of an ancient time in a new light as a new woman in his play, as a new woman who is vocal. That means she can expressive, bold enough to say what she desires or wants to achieve in her life. This is the remarkable manner in which Tagore revisits the world of ancient Indian women as shown in the great epic Mahabharata. She just asks for one day of perfect beauty to win Arjun's love and attraction. Yet the gods Madana and Vasant grant her a full year of perfect beauty and youth. Now this happens in the first scene of the play. This very first scene of the play underline the womanist overtones of the play, yet it cannot be read or understood from the feminist perspectives. Since here is a woman brought up as a man by her father, and she denies that manliness and seeks feminine qualities so as to win a man's heart and love. She is trying to achieve this by false means, by pretending to be beautiful with a spell or magical powers, boon by the gods that are not her own or real. One cannot agree with Tagore from the point of view of feminism, and that too from the 21st century. More than 100 years of the writers creating this character. The second scene takes place after Madan and Vasant's promise of blessing the masculine or manly Chitra with all the feminine qualities of a perfect beauty. The scene begins with Arjun's soliloquy, in which he expresses his state of mind after having seen the beautiful